Here we are.
ACT.
Yeah.
I'm about to start.
Okay.
About this right now.
Hey, do you? Do what you gotta do, okay?
Living color.
You just have to be prepared to suffer the consequences of whatever those actions are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I was so surprised at how he was looking at me. I was talking to him. I was like, do you need to say something? Do you need help? Like, use real words. And he didn't. And then so Melanie started rubbing his head. And I was like, do you have hand sanitizer? And she was like, I don't. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? And then
I think she's about to sneak me. So she calls my dad, and my dad comes in. He got this big cowboy hat on and everything. And I know he don't know how to read, so I ain't worried about him at all. So he sits next to me.
now
I don't
know
think
it
you
wasn't about us.
would use the hammer if he was using a gauntlet for evil. This just doesn't make you pure and worthy enough.
That's your phone, though.
That's your phone though.
Professional, but I said something smart to CT in our chat.
Yeah.
Came in trying to be professional, but I couldn't keep a straight face. So hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
No, you not talking.
Hello, gentlemen. Good evening. Welcome
Clearly,
to
that is not Johnny.
Easy
There is an imposter on the line.
We are so glad that all of you are here to join us tonight. You guys like that?
No.
Hello.
No, I didn't.
You're not feeling that?
We almost need to start it over because that was pitiful. That was really bad, Johnny. Like the people need energy. The people need Johnny.
I'm giving the energy. Hello. A professional energy tonight because I'm going to be on my best behavior because we have an amazing guest who has said yes and decided to join us tonight. So I am on my best behavior. I don't know about the two of y'all.
I'm not.
E, what about you?
Full mayhem.
I'm just gonna be me. I don't know whether best, worst applies.
Just going to do you.
I mean, otherwise, unless you want me to pose as somebody I'm not, so I can fit into a space that I may feel that I need. I mean, I don't know. But we're gonna play around with it today. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Johnny, I don't know how to feel about your question today.
All right. So today's topic is about imposter syndrome. And so for those of us who do not know what imposter syndrome is, let me give you like the technical definition, and we're going to start just diving right into it. So a psychological phenomenon where individuals experience feelings of inadequacy despite their competency or accomplishments, right? So it's that feeling of like not being good enough, not belonging, even if you have certain credentials behind your name, even if you have certain experience, maybe you step into certain rooms and still feel like maybe you're just not quite good enough or like you don't belong in that room. And that's a little bit of what that definition is, but we're going to talk more about it too, because there's different perceptions of it. But tonight we have an amazing guest. Like I could read her bio, but the reason why I decided to ask her to come on and join us tonight is because to me, she is one of the most confident individuals I know. Right. So we work together. Her name is Michonne Winborn. Okay. We work together, but this woman, she is an actress. She's a mother. She's just all around dope person. And a couple of weeks ago, I watched her walk into a room that she didn't know anybody. She just knew a couple of folks and fell right into it as if she owned the entire room. Right. And not everyone can do that. And so when I saw her do this, I was like, we got to have her on the pod. And I think this is the perfect subject to invite her on to join us with. So without further ado, Michonne, let's bring Michonne on.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
Hi, friends.
Hi.
Hey, yes.
Welcome.
Yes.
I love her. She's amazing.
Thanks. That was a lovely intro. I appreciate it. It's good to be here with y'all. I'm really excited, though. This is going to be a good conversation. It'll be a good conversation.
I think so too. I think so too. So I gave the people who are watching a quick definition around imposter syndrome. But even backstage, before we got started, Mashawn, you were like, I kind of go back and forth about this idea of what it even is. So let's just start with that. Like, why is it that you go back and forth? What is imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so I think I go back and forth about it because on the one hand, it can be internalized, right? So if you are feeling, I mean, and that's usually how people see it, that you are a very proficient person in whatever area, but some way, somehow you've internalized that you're not good enough to be there, or you should not be in this room, even though you've worked to be there. That can be internalized. But then there's also a part of it, I think, that doesn't get talked about a lot. That's about the lack of safety that people feel in corporate America. And that causes the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
So that is like put on you, even though you like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. I did all the things. I have all the degrees. And even if I don't have all the degrees, I know the things. So I'm supposed to be here.
That's right.
But you get in the room, and the people in the room, or the culture that's already been created by predecessors of that room, says you should not be here.
Yeah.
So then you start to take that on. And so I go back and forth between whether it's something that, and maybe it's just both. I go back and forth between it being something that I have internalized myself.
Yeah.
Or I exhibit this imposter syndrome. And the room has created this environment that is not to me being in it. And so I take it on.
That's right. That's right. So before I toss it over to our fellas here just to hear what they have to say about this, that is a perfect segue into the history of where imposter syndrome came from, right? Because I struggle with that as well. When I learned the origin of it, I'm like, okay, so then why are we taking this on? Maybe it's more about our culture than what it is about something that's inside of me. So the term started off as imposter phenomenon, and there were two psychologists, Dr. Pauline Clance and Dr. Suzanne Imes, who did the study in 1978. And they wrote this article called The Imposter Phenomenon in High Achieving Women, Dynamics and Therapeutic Intervention. And so they studied over 150 women that they worked with over the course of like about 5 years. And it was this overwhelming response from these women that said that they did not feel good enough, even though some of them were undergraduate students, medical students. Some of them had PhDs, and they still didn't feel like they quite belonged, or like they were all frauds, and that one day someone was going to find out that they had no idea what they were doing. But that just made me think, like, well, if this study was done in 1978, was the environment even set up for them to feel like they belonged, right? So of course they felt like frauds, and like, what they had to offer really didn't or wasn't adequate enough because the system wasn't set up for that. So I struggle with that a lot as well, Mashawn. But what about the two of you, E or CT, whoever would like to take it first?
CT, I'll let you go.
Listen, I think this is one of those. What's up, Mashawn? How you doing, girl? So good to see you. And I appreciate that you balancing out the melanin on our call tonight. But anyway, so to the extent that I think that this conversation is a deeply important one, because many times people will put it in the buckets of this is something that women go through, or this is something that junior employees go through. And I think the idea here is that this is a human condition that is baked into Johnny's definition and to what you said, even on the second part of it around safety, is this idea that there's a story that you're telling yourself about yourself that may or may not be true. And without clear validation, then you're going around walking into rooms being somebody that you are not. The problem can be, though, and this is where I'd love for you to chime in with a perspective, is that a lot of people have a story that they are telling about themselves that was framed by somebody else.
Yeah.
How does this happen for folks? Why does this happen for folks in the context of this imposter syndrome idea, people are running around being somebody that they are not. How does this end up happening? I don't know if it's Johnny, Michonne, kick in, because I'd love to take this conversation in some really deep waters tonight. Because I think there's some people who are probably walking around as something other than who they are supposed to be, but it wasn't because that's who they think they are. It's because somebody else defined them as such.
Michonne, what's your thoughts on that?
That's a really good point. So I think there's a lot of things. It's almost that nature versus nurture, where, so I'm going to use myself as an example.
Okay. Please.
I know that I was raised, I'm the first child. I was a girl. I would have been a second generation college, but my mom didn't go. My dad did. So there was a lot that was placed on me early, educational wise, which is fine. I enjoyed it. So I never really felt pressure, but I did know that it was there, if that makes sense. So there was a very specific way that I was raised to feel, and especially as a first child. So I think a lot of different things play into it, that I had to be the example all the time for everyone.
Okay.
So I have 3 siblings. I had to be their example. I had to do everything right. I followed all the rules. I went to all the services at church. I went to all the summer stuff. Like, I did everything right because I had people coming behind me that were looking to me as an example. Plus, I was the first child and I was a daddy's girl. And like anything that he did, I was just like, you are the golden man on the universe. And I want to be like you. Yeah. So there was that. Then I was always in white schools. So then there was that nuance of always having to be the best, because if you're not the best, then you're seen as the lazy person, or well, you didn't get here because you should be here. You got here because your dad teaches here.
Right.
Then I went to white college and it was that same. So I think there's a lot of things that compounded for me personally that got me there. But I think it was rooted in just like feeling like I had to be perfect at everything. And I still feel that sometimes, but I don't feel a pressure to be that. I just feel like I need to be excellent in all the things that I do.
Yeah.
Did that kind of answer the question?
You're into some. You're not deep yet, but you're heading towards there. Like I felt there was that you dipped your toe in the water and put your face in there. Like, but Michonne, on the way to it, what I heard is that there are some things that in your experience really did frame a narrative that you had to then lean into to define who you were in those spaces. You use very specific descriptors to define the spaces that you were in, and those informed how you think about yourself. So you got to take me a little bit deeper, because like you went to a white school, like you were the oldest child, like all of those lived things are creating a story, a narrative. You're telling us something about you without us fully having an appreciation for, is Michonne actually talking to us right now? Or is this the person behind the proverbial mask? Or is this Born to Win coaching? Or is this like, who are we talking to right now? You know?
Yeah. I think the older I get, the easier it is for me to shed layers that I've developed that I didn't realize were shells. So, and this is like the first time I'm saying any of this stuff out loud, because it's not like a conversation you just have, you know. And I've said, you know, some of these things I've more than likely said to my husband at some point or other, but I've not had an opportunity to really figure out how I came to be how I am, or really think about it deeply. But you are talking to Michonne. You're not talking to like a facade. You're talking to Michonne, because Michonne is a striving perfectionist. I just am. Like that is, and that's not a story I'm telling myself. I do strive to be perfect in all things if I can be. And it's not perfect like without fault, but excellent, I should say.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good pivot.
So, yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, yeah. E, what is your perception of this whole idea of imposter syndrome? What do you have to say about it?
Throw it out the window.
It's trash.
Kick him out the classroom. Sorry.
I struggle with. I mean, I definitely understand the clinical and Webster definition of it. I struggle with it because it seems that it would be required of everybody to have a little bit of imposter syndrome because of the fact that every space is not set up for every person. So there's automatically some level of requirement for you to contort yourself to some degree for some spaces to operate in them. Because if there wasn't, then you would always be able to be your authentic self and never have to feel like an imposter. And I guess I can go ahead and dig in to be like, so the Scotch with E is not the same as Eric.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because Scotch with E is someone who, when you finally meet him, you've made it through all of the layers of who Eric is to be able to be in the presence of Scotch with E and hear his full thoughts and all of, his unbridled, everything, right? Like not everybody makes it to that level. So automatically, to some degree, there is a form of imposter syndrome that I have to display and operate with, because there's no space where, I mean, and I'm just going to speak a little bit candid, but where was the space to begin with in some places where you didn't have to be an imposter to even walk into the room? And I say it from someone who has now worked in corporate America for quite some time, that there was no space for me just to be me in any of these meetings. There was no space for me to show up as the true, authentic, passionate person that I am, because if I did show up as the authentic me, I would be intimidating. I would be something that some people wouldn't be able to rationalize, because I would just not conform to their, understanding of what I should be to be in that space. Therefore, automatically, there's a level of imposter syndrome that we all kind of have to operate with. It was funny. I told a senior leader of mine who I look up to that my imposter syndrome here is just showing up. Like that's it. Like, the imposter is the guy who's here. Like, I every now and then you may learn more about me, and there's elements of me that may slip out where you're like, hey, did I see a little bit of this in you? Like, yes, that's true. But otherwise than that, I will bring my joy. I will bring all of the elements of who I am, but you don't get the full me. So therefore, there is a little bit of in that. So
this is where I struggle, though. This is what I struggle. I struggle with the word imposter in this whole equation. That's what I struggle with.
Okay.
I'm never a fake or a phony. I'm
but
never
100% you.
That's different from being an imposter.
I get it, but does it not feel like
no, it doesn't.
Well, hold on. I guess I'll pose this to you guys in this way. If I withhold certain elements of myself and present certain elements of myself, could someone say, I didn't really know who you were? And in proxy, feel like the person that they thought that you weren't. So you were, in their mind, an imposter. That's the way, I mean, even though it could feel like a stretch, I know. I struggle with it too, Johnny, because I'm like, when I look you in the face and be like, I don't care, I'm not being an imposter at all. But I may say it in a way that is not 100% genuinely the way I want to say it.
And I'm not even saying it necessarily to your perspective, E, because a lot of what you're saying, I am right on point with, like, especially about, was there even ever a space, for us? But it's the word imposter that gets me out of this whole idea of like overcoming the imposter syndrome or strategies to, mitigate imposter syndrome. I never feel like I'm a fake or phony. There are times where I am surrounded by people because of their skill and maybe it's something new. So I listened to a podcast with Jay Shetty, who was a monk and about this,
The monk.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with him, got to check him out. But one of his quotes is, if you're growing and learning, you will always feel imposter syndrome, because to him, imposter syndrome is that, like, when you're learning or doing something new and you get like that anxiety or the nerves, or you're like, and you're surrounded by people who have a little bit more experience than you, who can do it a little bit better than you because you haven't reached that level yet or something. So there's a little anxiety, but I never feel like a fake or phony, like I'm not being me, or like I don't really belong. I never have that feeling.
Do you ever pretend?
What do you mean pretend? Give me more of what you're saying. What do you mean, CT?
So let's use the example growing up. Like, I pretended to be a superhero. I pretended to be a fighter pilot. I pretended to be, it was this aspiring idea that I had to be something that I wasn't at that time. And so my goals, aspirations, whether I knew what to do or how to get there, I was pretending to be that thing. Do you ever pretend to be a thing that you are not?
That I am not. No.
I added the last part. So let's just start. Let me break it into pieces. All the time. You pretend? Yeah, you do pretend all the time.
Yeah, all the time. I pretend to be somebody who cares about stuff, and I know I really don't. But I'm saying no.
I pretend to be right something that I'm not. I pretend to be happy in certain instances. I pretend so in some respect. So in some respects, in the relationships that we have, in the rooms that we go into, sometimes we have to pretend to be something that we don't want to be in that space, so we can be either accepted in that space, we can be approved in that space, we can be comfortable in that space, and you can shake your head all you want to, but it's something that I think people are struggling with all the time.
I do think there are people struggling with it. You ask me, do I? My answer is no.
No, you don't. So there's never an environment you go into where you're somebody other than Johnny.
She'll leave.
No, I'm not.
We've seen her. Okay. She will just leave.
She will just walk out. Yeah.
Now, to E's point, how you were saying, and I want Michonne to chime in on this as well, but to E's point where you're saying, like, yeah, there's some parts that I may pull back because of the environment I'm in. It's still me. I'm not pretending to be someone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just going to work and I'm not acting like I'm with my homegirls.
Yes, that's what I was going to mention, the idea of masking or covering.
Mm-hmm.
It's that you are your authentic self, but there's parts of your authentic self that you choose not to share in all spaces.
I'm gonna cut you off because your authentic self thing. I just like trigger word, authentic self. So what I hear you saying is there's while it is you can't be you in certain spaces because your authenticity might create something in the particular room that you're in that either makes somebody uncomfortable, that throws the room off, or makes you have to lose your promotion, whatever it might be, depending on the room is. So what do you tell me? So I can only be parts of me in my authenticity, depending on where I happen to be?
So I hear what you're saying, and you're not twisting what I'm saying, but I want to clarify.
Okay.
When I am at work, I am my full professional self.
Critical word choice there.
So there's a professional Michonne,
right?
And then there's just out here in these streets, Michonne, which I'm not in the streets. I'm not in the streets.
In these smooth streets.
We'll talk about that on the second episode.
I should have some other words.
But no,
you know what I'm saying? So there's a professional me. Like, I'm not going to Johnny's point. I'm not going to show up at work and just be out there just cussing, talking about all kinds of stuff that I be hanging out doing with people. Like, I'm not doing that.
Why not? Why not?
Because
why
that's
not
professional.
Who defines? Eric said earlier that we didn't have these spaces. So who is defining what these spaces are and how I have to perform or be in those particular spaces?
HR. That is who do it. That is who does it. HR does it. And Mr. I am my own business. Your HR department keeps you safe.
I'm being intentionally what might feel like mayhem and mess on purpose, because sometimes in these conversations we stay top level and we're just like, yes, I can be. And I remember I've had this conversation with in mentoring sessions, etc., a ton. Why? Because someone who's never been in a certain ecosystem will struggle to understand. I was watching a meme the other day, somebody sent me, and this gentleman was talking about his wife was asking him to go to a work event. And did you see that? And she was like, hey, will you change what you wear to be with me? And he was having a fit about, she's supposed to be down for me. I'm not changing how I look or who I am to be Johnny, I see your face. Like, I was going to go through the whole thing, but Johnny, I saw your face. I'm like, oh, Johnny felt that in her. Like, but it's this idea that there are some things that we have to pretend to be for the purpose of meeting the room we are in. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that when we start talking about things like our authentic self, when we start talking about our professional selves, we use these qualifiers. The qualifiers denote there's a potential imposter thing that's going on in the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I guess because I'm coming from a space, I'm tired of us having to feel like this imposter syndrome is this phenomenon or this condition that we have to overcome, right? I don't feel like I'm a fake or phony when I step into a room or because something is new. I may get a little nervous because I'm like, oh man, I've never done this before. Man, I hope this turns out really well. Or maybe because I'll give you an example. We all know them, like the production team of the company that some of us still work for. They're excellent at what they do. Like Mashawn and I were just having a conversation about them the other day. And so when I love video editing. So when I step into the space, they are much better video editors than what I am, even though I love it. And so I didn't feel like I was a fake or phony, like I didn't belong in the room with them. I just thought like, man, I need to learn what they do. I need to learn how they do it, how they make people feel so comfortable, how they're able to tell this story in video format so that I can some kind of way be at that level. But I didn't feel like I didn't belong right there with them, you know? So I think that is what I want us to kind of get out of that idea of feeling like you don't belong or like you're not good enough, even if you do have all this experience and credentials and all of the things behind you. But yeah.
Johnny, if we can pull on that just for a second. I'm feeling this like, I'm sorry I didn't tell you I was going to be chatty tonight, but I was like, this topic is a real one. So Johnny, like, and maybe E can pull on this, especially from his cooking perspective. So you gave an example walking into the video room. You have some skills to create video, but you are not going to pretend to be them. But sometimes people will pretend to be better at the thing so that they will be accepted in that room. So some people, Johnny, not you, of course, but some people might be like, oh yeah, I've been video editing since 1987. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I could do that until given the opportunity to have to actually do something.
Yeah.
And then they fail.
Okay.
So the trick around imposter syndrome to me is that more people are pretending in the room they go in so they can be impressive or to impress the people who are in that room, being the thing that somebody thinks they are rather than being what they really are. And E, I was thinking about you in the context of your chef life, you know, the Scots with Eastside, and how many people like you come across was like, oh yeah, I can make that chicken dish. or I can cook up a nice little steak. You run into that, and does the imposter syndrome context show up in that space with you?
Well, I mean, it can. I try not to ever let it, because it's not a space that you can fake, because you actually have to make all of the stuff that people will pay you to cook. So yeah, no, I would never profess to be a professional, a consummate professional at cooking. Like, I have experience, I am good, but I would never, like, oversell myself just to be given an opportunity. But people approach me all the time where I would have the ability to kind of inject myself and kind of falsify my credentials so that I could have, more opportunity, or I can be in those spaces. But I know that does me a disservice if I'm not willing to go do that, that grind time work in the back end where it really matters, right? And I think we're all hitting on very interesting perspectives. But Johnny, I want to go back to the podcast, because I listened to Jay Shetty as well, and the way that he kind of pivoted his perspective on imposter syndrome wasn't as black and white, I guess, as we're kind of painting it, right? It was more like he had a vision of himself.
That's good.
But then his environment envisioned who he was supposed to be. And as he walked that path, he kept being drawn back to the person that he wanted to be. And then ultimately, when he chose to become the monk and go full into the purpose that he believed in more endearingly, he had to let go of all of the things that everybody told him he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So for him, and CT, I think you kind of touched on this in the beginning. For him, his imposter syndrome began when someone told him who he was supposed to be, not the environment that he was in, and not the spaces that he was trying to contort himself to. It was
the story.
This is the story of you, and we're going to help you write it, and you don't have a choice in it. So you're walking this story and this narrative, but the whole time you keep seeing these off ramps, you keep seeing these other places that you feel more confident that you should be, and you just continue to stay in that space, not ever really leaving and going towards those things that really are pulling you. So I just wanted to pull that out, because I definitely think that imposter syndrome is not like this one example fit all thing. I think all of us deal with it in different ways. I think it's performative. I think it's conformative. I think it's a part of assimilation as well. It's a safety mechanism for a lot of people. It's a weapon almost in some senses, because it's like you can create the space where you can create the need for everybody to be imposters, or you could be somebody who's not as comfortable with yourself, and you really will conform to any space that you're in, therefore making you an imposter. But it really makes me want to play that game, like Who Done It, that imposter game. You guys know about that? It's like where you got to keep guessing on who it is, and So I've been thinking about playing the imposter game, because as soon as we brought this up, I was like, I got to play imposter. So sorry, a little left.
Michonne, you look like you were getting ready to say something. Were you, or no?
I mean, I had a thought. I was thinking about a couple different things. I think the reason why I was going back and forth, what I was saying at the beginning about whether it's the environment that's impacting us, or if it's our own story, as we've been talking about, like the story that's been put on us that's inside of us. I think the reason I go back and forth between those things is because I really do think that it's specific to race or ethnicity.
Talk about it.
Okay.
So Eric said something and it triggered it, and I don't remember exactly what it was now, but basically what I'm thinking is Black women specifically, because remember, this historically was started out as a women thing, right? Now everybody, and that's fine, because everybody has these moments.
Right, exactly.
But for Black women, we be knowing the things. We're not going into a room if we don't know the thing. If we go somewhere, we know we have earned being there.
Right.
So for Black women, I feel like it is an environment. It is the space was not made for you. So of course you're going to feel some type of way once you get in it.
It's good, Michelle.
Yes.
But for other ethnicities, it might be the other things that we've been discussing, or even just other genders, right? Yeah. It might be what else we're discussing, because it's more the internal story that you've bought into. I'm supposed to be this. Yeah. And so when I deviate, then I feel like I'm not where I should be. I don't feel like I fit. So what am I doing? Should I just go back over there? That's where I think there becomes that nuance. But I think for most Black women, that's a broad stroke. I understand that.
Yeah.
But I think for Black women, it's the environment. It's the lack of safety that we feel going into spaces where nobody else like us looks like us.
That's right.
And we are like, oh.
So I know. That's right. So I know when I'm going into this room, I'll already have to think about like the experience I have. Yes. Am I prepared? The studying I've been doing, the research I've been, the whole thing. So that's why when I walk into that space, that's a great way to put that, Michonne. That's why when I walk into the space, it's not about me feeling like I'm a fraud. No, I'm not a fraud.
I know
I've done the things. I know I've done the work. I already know that before I stepped in. But it's just about like, okay, maybe they are more experienced. Okay, that's fine. This is just a part of that learning process for me as I bring myself up to speed or learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's good.
So you're saying it's not pretend, it's prepared. So when you're prepared, you don't have to pretend.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And then you can fully walk in who you are and what you know, and let whatever that environment is, that doesn't affect you as hard. I mean, it still affects you, but it doesn't affect you as harshly, because you know that you are prepared for this moment. Now, things can still happen where, they're like, well, we don't want you here. And then you leave, you know what I mean? Then you're like, you don't want me here. But there's only so much that can actually affect you internally, because you know that you're prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
I'm buying.
Sit with that one. Okay. There's a couple of questions I have, but there was also some questions in the chat that I would like to pull up that I thought was really good. That's my mama, y'all. So are we going to be who we are not to impress who? Like, is it about impressing anyone?
I don't know, Mama. I don't think it's so much is about impressing as much as it's about making a impression in some instances, right? Where you don't want to be overlooked, and you don't want to be seen as somebody who did not leave any sort of
value,
flair or value in scenarios, right? Because who you are matters to you until you matter to someone else a lot of times, right? Like if I'm in the room and I'm the guy saying the thing, then people are like, who is he? They want to hear it. They want to know. But if I'm just sitting there and I ain't really saying the thing, then nobody really cares who you are, right? So did I say something that carried the conversation forward? I mean, I've seen, wallflowers be passed up on dates all the time. So, you gotta dance to be noticed.
Yeah.
Wait. Quote too. I see you trying to find your rib in the comments, but I'm just teasing.
Welcome to the show.
Wait. So this is Inclusion on Purpose. I don't know if you read it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ruchika Tolshan, I don't know if that's how you pronounce her last name, but her first name is definitely Ruchika. But she says this, and this ties along to what I was saying and then what E was just saying. Research shows that women of color are constantly trying to influence how others perceive us by managing the flow of information in social settings And at work, we're often managing the risk that we will come off as less knowledgeable or problematic versus speaking up at the right time and possibly being rewarded. So it's really like walking in the room, you know the things, but you're like, okay, if I speak up too soon, then I'm gonna be seen as some bombastic Black woman who can't just hush and just sit in the room. But if I never speak up, they don't see my value. So then I won't be invited back to the room.
Right.
Yes, right.
It's that balance that
balance.
That syndrome for some people, I feel like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like, I had to read that quote.
That was good. That was really good. That was really good. Thanks for sharing that. Mel had a great question too, Kim. Can we see that one? Ooh, is there a difference between code switching and imposter syndrome? What y'all think?
Code switching is the byproduct of imposter syndrome.
That part.
That part.
Yeah.
The words that I use when I'm not being who I'm supposed to be is why I have to switch.
Ooh.
Exactly. Yeah. That was I loved it when that popped up. I was like, I'm waiting on it. But yeah, definitely, it is a byproduct because where you're at because you're the imposter. You're a chameleon every time you turn around. Where you need to be. Hey, this is a Vogue spot. I have to Vogue here. We are not allowed to do the I was going to do the WAP.
That might be
struggling with that. Yeah.
I don't know. That might be another episode, y'all. That might be a whole episode.
I would like to unpack that a little bit more because I'm not quick to say absolutely and yes the way that y'all are. I feel like they're completely different. So I don't know. I think we have I want to unpack that a little bit more.
For that conversation.
Part 2. We got a part 2. Okay.
Let's have a part 2 about that one.
All right. So did we have another question? Let's read that. Acknowledging where there is an intersection between your core self and a vast body of knowledge wherein that allows you to be totally confident in your expression.
Leave that up for a minute. I gotta read it.
The intersection between your core self and a vast body of knowledge is where I think the essence of the question is. So your core self really is having a deep appreciation and understanding of who you are, mapped against a vast body of, if I went to the internet and if I said one of my core values is courage, I could go to the internet and find a vast body of knowledge that talks about what courage is, but it doesn't mean that I am courageous. So when you think about the second part of the question, and I'm trying to break this down like Melanie might teach me to, it allows you to be totally confident in your expression. So if I have a clear appreciation of a core value that is mine, let's just say courage, I map it against what courage is. It allows me then to be courageous in who I know I am to be, not what someone else has created for me or someone else has told me I should be. That's how I was reading the question if I was breaking down the essence of what was being asked, because there's nuance in that question, because you got to acknowledge that there is this intersection between how you see yourself and the world that you are in. And oftentimes that can diminish how you show up confidently. Eric, you said in the last question that someone needs to be impressive versus then to impress. Well, the struggle happens to be is that I have to impress to make an impression. So it's a play on some of these words sometimes, and a play on depending on the room that I'm in. Oftentimes the challenge we run into is that if I have to present myself in a confident way, if I have not prepared, then my expression will be less confident. Then I have to then pretend to be something that I'm not, so that I can get out of that room with as little damage as possible.
I like that.
Okay.
I was just I read the question. That was what hit me when it came through. So.
No, I like that. I like that. Okay.
Okay. Is there anything that we missed in here? I think we got all of those questions.
Oh.
So being an imposter, we are wearing a mask. We are hiding who we are. Yes, mama.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. We double, triple masked out here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you ever see the dude with the like, take your take your ski mask off. He'd be like, yeah, and he take it off, and then he got a ski mask on under that one. I'm like, take that one off, and he take that one off. Like, I got another one. Like, you got like 500 ski masks under there. Just know.
And I think it's a little further than just masking who you are as an imposter. And when we talk about imposter syndrome, it's taking it a little bit further than that. It's also like, how can I put this? Not necessarily masking who you are, but like not being confident in who you are. So not necessarily pretending to be someone else, but like not just being confident and acknowledging your worth and your value and all that you bring to the table. So it's not always necessarily like you're pretending to be something that you're not, but it's also, you don't even realize who you are.
It's like you're hiding yourself from yourself.
Yes. Like, don't you know all that you bring to this table? How dare you feel like you're not good enough or that you don't belong in this space because of all the things.
Okay. So, okay. So, stay in Michonne, I want to pull on the word you used earlier, professional. I want to go back to something because Johnny, I want to tie into what you just said. Okay. So, you have to go to a work event and you don't like wearing ties, but everybody in the room is wearing a tie, and everybody tells you you have to wear a tie to be in this room. Do you wear a tie?
I mean, yes, that you're not changing yourself.
Yeah, you just put
that's not your core being.
Your value.
A childless person. That's not a core value. That's an outfit. That's a piece of clothing.
Wait.
A childless person.
You said ties. Go ahead.
I would put on a bolo tie.
You know.
All right. So let's say you don't put on the tie. Do you show up in shorts and a polo shirt?
No, you show up.
You're a guy.
You show up in the ascot, and that's what you show up in the ascot.
So you conform to the environment you have to be in.
I mean, hold on. We're talking about a dress code, man. I mean, that's not the same thing. I mean, I'm with the ladies on that. That's what I'm saying.
Like my grandma would.
It's a dress code.
Let me just say, this is why that video that you alluded to earlier, Chris, about the guy on the podcast. So for more context on that video, if you didn't see it. The guy was complaining because his wife works in some kind of corporate setting. She had a work event. She wanted her husband to come because spouses were invited. And he came out of the room, with his outfit on, with short sleeves on. He has tats. She was like, can you please go put on a long sleeve shirt? Like, you're meeting my colleagues. And he felt some type of way because he's like, this is covering up a part of me.
Who I am. Okay.
And if I have to change who I am to be in that room, I don't work there. I shouldn't have to change myself to come to your work event. And I don't work there. So why, that was what the argument was, which I was like, bro, do you love her or not? Put a long sleeve shirt on. But so that's the same kind of thing. Clothing is not a core piece of your being.
Yeah.
It is a part of how you identify. We're all talking about how we show up. The essence of who we are shows up. Johnny, I learned something about who you are, the essence of who you are, by how you dress. And friends and neighbors, y'all introduced into the conversation something urban and ethnic earlier today. Because y'all introduced it, when I first joined the organization I'm no longer with, I was sat down by someone who is of the ebony hue like me. They were a leader in the place. And this person said, because you are who you are, true story, you aren't allowed to wear jeans like everybody else. You need to dress like the code of the people who need to demand and require respect.
Okay.
Hear me when I tell you. I was like, oh, So this is a part of who I or how I have to present myself to be accepted in this environment. And then I watched others wearing the thing that this person told me that I didn't have to wear or I shouldn't wear because I was Black, working in an environment where I had to or should impress. Mm-hmm. That was what someone told me. Mm-hmm. Right. So make it make sense for me. Now, granted, Christopher's a little different. So the next day I wore some jeans. I was about to say. Yeah. That's just me. But but this show isn't always just about us individually. This is about people who are giving this advice, who are having to receive this advice, and are having to figure out how am I supposed to show up in an environment where I want to be the best version of me, but the best version of me in the place that I've selected requires me to be something that doesn't help me identify who I am.
But clearly the environment did not require that, Chris. Because you excelled wearing jeans. So you did not accept the story that you were told all skin folk ain't kin folk. Right. They don't. So you didn't accept that story. You didn't internalize that story. You continue to do you and be successful.
I just needed somebody to say it, because I think that's what gets missed at times. We get this advice, we get this counsel, and there's not somebody that says, "Wait, time. What? Why? Why would you give that particular set of advice?" Some of it's through your specific lived experience, where you have some particular trauma that happened in your life. It was like, "Oh, nope, I have to now." The biblical response would be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So in the natural sense, I've got to be transformed in understanding that the thing that somebody else went through isn't the thing that I'm going to go through, even if I'm in the same environment that they are in. Yep. I have to truly understand, why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? Even if the wisdom, perspective, or advice is being given to me. Let's go back 2 episodes, right? Johnny, you were talking about a mentor who gave you some advice. Heck, last week we were talking about the mentor that gave you some advice was like, wrong timing, wrong place. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was like, okay. And then I saw senior leaders that weren't like me doing the thing he said I didn't do. And I'm like, well, who's my model? Or what am I modeling in that environment to ensure that I don't create a distraction from how I show up, so that the credibility of when I open my mouth, they're like, oh, he's supposed to be here. But if I create a distraction by coming in, not being positioned to know that this is what the environment or the culture expects, right? If I don't understand that, I position myself to not be in a position to be credible or even to be heard, because I'm being seen in a way that is counter the place that I'm at. These are real things. These are real things, right? That people are going through. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay. I do want to get to Mom's question. Let's pull that one up. So, if I know my knowledge is on a lower level than others, should I still share my knowledge? Oh, Mama, the assumption that your knowledge is on a lower level, we're going to start there. We don't automatically know that. And knowledge is to be shared. So I am very proficient in a lot of things. And there's things that I still don't know and I still struggle with. So I do always look to those people who have additional knowledge to share with me. So let's not assume automatically that our levels are lower or higher than other people without ascertaining exactly where they are on the subjects that you want to talk to them about, because it's about the specific thing. It's not about, knowledge of subject, not just overall knowledge. So go ahead, Johnny.
Well, yes, I agree with that. And I also think that there are some times where you are in situations where your knowledge, you do have less knowledge about a thing than someone else. So that, like the example I gave in video production, I had less knowledge about this particular skill than those other individuals, but it didn't cause me to hold back. I just asked more questions and shared what what I mean? Ask more questions, share what I knew, and just kind of like learned from that experience. So I don't think that should cause you to hold back. You can still share, because sometimes there are situations where absolutely your knowledge is less than the people around you, and that's okay too. Right?
Go ahead.
Or something.
Well, even though your knowledge is less, you're sharing what you're paying attention to make make the world of difference. Because like I've seen people, we're all very smart people, and we've had all really complex, difficult conversations. And the people who are the newest to it, that don't know the most, sometimes ask the best questions. And that's just what it is.
Absolutely. Usually do ask the best questions.
Knowledge is acquired. You do not get to know another thing without, Johnny, thank you, E, thank you, without the value of curiosity. If you think you know something, that's the moment you've lost your ability to have true knowledge acquisition. I might know a thing, but the first thing I want to understand is, what do you know? What do they know? And so how do we then take our collective knowledge and create the thing that we all know? And I think what gets lost at times is that people, this idea that there is a lower level of knowledge. No, the lowest level of learning is speaking, right? And so sometimes the very best way for us to get to the place where we need to know something or get to a higher level is by asking a question so we know more. That old adage, the more you know, was at Schoolhouse Rock, something like that. The more you know. No, that wasn't Schoolhouse Rock. That's something like that. That was it. We 80s. We going in our 80s place, Johnny.
With the book, wasn't it?
That's right. Reading Rainbow.
It was like during the Reading Rainbow show.
Yes. Oh, I loved Reading Rainbow.
I can see it in my head.
Well, I definitely love all of this conversation. I want to leave it with Mel's comment. Cam, can you pull that up for me? My experience is that the environment tends to make me feel unwelcome, like I'm an imposter. But you often realize that the people making you feel unwelcome are the real imposters. Shout out to Mel.
Yes. Did y'all hear that clip of Barack Obama when he was like, we fight so hard to be in these rooms, and he said, y'all want to get in these nobody
know nothing at that table.
They don't know nothing.
No.
There's a reason why.
That's another reason why I struggled with. Dang, I'm saying the same thing he was saying, but struggle with this idea of feeling like a fake or a phony. Like, how dare I feel like a fake or a phony? Put in the room with these folks, like. Please, no, absolutely not. E, what were you going to say?
Listen. I got enough people trying to tap me down at all times to tell me why I ain't this and why I ain't great and all this, and I'll be thinking like, yeah, tell it to your mama. All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to our.
Wait, and let me just say this, Mel. I completely agree. I think that goes back to I'm still laughing at E.
Tell it to your mama.
That goes back to what Michelle was saying earlier about struggling with this idea, is it internal or external, and even where imposter syndrome comes from, because the system was not meant for some of us to succeed. Couldn't get it out. So absolutely, that environment, man, is tricky. It's really tricky. Okay.
All right. Speaking of which, we're gonna change up our environment and we're gonna talk about some pretty lies and some ugly truths. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for those it's your first time, Pretty Lies and Ugly Truth is the segment where we focus on those things that are made more palatable when you really look at them in their honest truth. They're a lot more ugly than we really have been made to believe. Now, today, I do have a video. Now, I had a video last week. I was having fun with Johnny, but I got a kid. I missed you, Johnny, so I had to keep picking with you. This week, I got a video that I queued up and I sent over to Cam. Now, once we get done watching this video, I want your guys' opinion on these things. So, Cam, can you pull the video?
Know who you are if you've always been in survival mode. I actually just found out who it was maybe 2 years ago outside of survival mode. I can't lead you there, but maybe I can point you in the right direction with these questions. Write them down if you need to. They really help me. Number one, what do I enjoy simply because it brings me joy? What do I enjoy simply because it brings me joy? Number two, what does rest look like when I'm not feeling guilty about it? What does rest look like when I'm not feeling guilty about it? Number 3, when I feel safe and unhurried, what kind of person do I naturally become? When I feel safe and unhurried, what kind of person do I naturally become? Number 4, who am I when I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone, even myself? Who am I when I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone, even myself? And the last one, I always say the best for last, right? The heavy hitter. What parts of my personality have I hidden to feel safe or accepted? What parts of my personality have I hidden to feel safe or accepted? I do want to say that even though survival mode isn't healthy, your reason for getting it is understood. This world is a mess. We don't have to be all the time. I hope these questions help.
Thanks, Cam.
Great question.
All right. So there's 6 questions in there, but what I want to pose to you guys is I wanted to carry this over into our imposter syndrome conversation. I wanted to tie it in, guys. I mean, I actually wanted to keep it all relevant. Do we feel that the imposter syndrome is a byproduct of survival mode? That you feel inherent that in some situations, some people may turn up imposter syndrome more because of their survival instincts is driving them to feel that if we go through some of those questions, you can clearly tell that there's some imposter syndrome like diagnoses questions in there where you're like, am I like showing up in these spaces, not being my authentic self? Am I hiding some of myself? Like it really created some complexity in how I looked at imposter syndrome versus what I look at survival mode. And if some people are put in imposter syndrome because of their instinctual survival modes that they're just automatically in, and that's just the way they're operating. So I wanted to play that and kind of get your guys' thought. Mashawn, I know you're the guest, but I can come to you first and get your thoughts on the video, or I can mess with CT because I like mess with him too.
First of all, I missed the first 2 questions, so I'm gonna need you to send me that link because I didn't start writing in time. But I don't know if I think that it's tied to survivors. You said survivor's guilt?
Survival mode. Survival mode. You know how you like, man, I'm just doing whatever it takes to survive. Right.
I mean, I think some of it could be tied to it when you feel like if you don't give up parts of yourself, then you can't excel or you can't progress. I guess yes. Mm-hmm. For me, no. But I guess that could be the case. Yeah. I'm gonna stop there.
Okay. What about you, CT?
The ugly truth is that most people aren't living, they are surviving.
That's right.
They're surviving from their last hustle where they didn't get validation. They're surviving from the opportunity where they needed to prove themselves and it didn't work. They are surviving from the rejection of a past relationship. They're surviving because they went into a meeting and they weren't dressed properly. Who knows what that might be. The ugly truth for us here is that people tend to be thrown into this state of imposter as a syndrome, as a direct reflection of them being in survival mode versus living mode. Yeah. So that's the ugly truth. And I think that's the one thing that under it all for me, as I listen to even the questions, the depth of what this in your doppelganger was asking about, I think it was tough to be able to people are showing up the best that they can because they're simply surviving versus stuff.
Yeah. Johnny, my liege.
I really enjoyed that video. That was really great. Kim said we all just went down.
Y'all did. It was so funny. Hey, listen, EMM family, y'all can tell what type of students we were, right? Because all three of y'all start writing. I was like, yeah, I'm not writing nothing. No, I got the video. Okay, I know where the source materials. I'm not writing nothing down.
I love taking notes. I love when I gotta take notes. This is my love language.
Man.
So if I think this is a great question, E, too. If I think about the true definition of imposter syndrome, individuals experiencing feelings of inadequacy despite their competence or accomplishments, no, I would not say feeling inadequate or not competent, regardless of your accomplishments, is a form of survival mode. No.
Okay.
But I will say that there could be behaviors that show up as a byproduct because of imposter syndrome. So if I go into spaces and I feel like I don't belong, I'm inadequate, I may have a PhD, I may have 25 years of experience, but because of who's in the room, I feel like, oh, am I really supposed to be here? Maybe that will cause me to Mashawn's point earlier, speak up and just start talking because I feel like I need to try to add value or say something in this room where I feel like I don't feel comfortable or belong, when really maybe what I'm saying doesn't even add value. Or maybe it causes me to, I don't know, maybe it causes us to go into survival mode because of it. But imposter syndrome itself, I would say no.
Okay.
But there could be behaviors that come from that cause us to like, okay, let me get to work. Let me figure out what and maybe it could be a good thing, because maybe it forces you to work a little harder, do a little studying, whatever the thing may be. But imposter syndrome itself, no.
Okay. No, I just thought it was a very interesting, video to kind of tie the two together, because and my take on it is that it's really easy for someone in survival mode to possibly fall into imposter syndrome, right? And it doesn't seem like it would be it seems like they kind of have some correlation, but they're not 100% dependent on each other, because again, you could be someone living your life, but just be an imposter. But you could be somebody who is 100% imposter because your life is all about survival. Right. Yeah. So I do know that there's some nuance to how it all goes together. For me, I definitely understand that survival mode will draw out a lot of things in people for them to find a way for.
Yes.
And it wouldn't matter what I got to do and who I got to contort to, because survival mode is that. Survival mode is that one, because CT, I love the way you said, like, I'm not living, I'm surviving. And in order to survive, you will take on and do things that you typically would not if you were in a position to just live the way you wanted to. Yeah. So, No. All right. Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, thank you, CT, for dropping the ugly truth today, because you did put that in there. This was unexpected test. I need sorry, mommy, you so silly.
Share the video.
Don't worry, y'all. It's recorded. Okay, you can go back and watch it over and over again, and then fast forward and then DJ it up. Survive as a caterpillar, thrive as a butterfly. I love that. I love that. All right. What are moths? Like, what did they start at?
To a flame. Sorry.
Okay. So that is our pretty truths, and that's our pretty truth. I mean, pretty lies and ugly truths. Sorry. Thank you so much. But I do want to go around the room and kick off our final thoughts. Yeah. Johnny, since you kicked us off, I'll let you run our final thoughts for us today.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we are closing out this episode, once again, Mashawn, thank you so much for joining us. I could have conversations with you forever, so I just appreciate you.
Come on back.
Yes, you got to come back. You got to come back when we have the code switching and imposter syndrome conversation.
Yes, code switching.
Yes, absolutely. But as we're closing out, Mashawn, I'm just going to ask you to kind of sum up your thoughts first, and two, because also you have all of this experience. You are an actress, you've been on stage a lot. Like, is there any, as you're wrapping up your final thoughts too, are there any strategies or advice that you would share with our audience on helping them feel more confident and kind of owning who and what they are?
Yeah, thanks. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned is about grounding yourself. And that can be done in a whole lot of different ways. There's grounding yourself spiritually, so knowing who you are inside by Jesus Christ. That's going to ground you, right? But then also physically, and I'm not like, I don't be doing the things to keep my body together. I really don't. I'm just holding on by a thread. But when I go to present, there are some things that I do when I'm going to facilitate in front of a group of people or anything like that. There are certain things that I do in order to get my body grounded, or when I'm going into a room with executives, like I'll go to the bathroom, be in there like jumping up and down, because it helps my body to get more settled. And so this is like a theater thing, and you can look up different exercise from, lots of theater companies do stuff like this, but swinging your arms back and forth, and I can't do it because I'm sitting in a chair, but relaxing your arms all the way and swinging them back and forth to pull. Basically, it's pulling the muscles in the arms to relax, jumping up and down, which sounds crazy and looks crazy, but it's actually getting your breath work together so that your body can shake tension and shake stress out before you have to present. When I was with Joni a couple of weeks ago for the a graduation for a development program that she runs, some of these people were so nervous before they had to get up and do their presentations. And I was like, hey, you just have to the first 60 seconds that you speak is when your nerves are there. Yeah. If you can get through 60 seconds, you're done. You're going to coast on the rest of it. So memorize them first 60 seconds, because if you trip up in there, then you're going to be frustrated with yourself. Yeah. If you can get past that, then you're golden. But those are really important to me, just grounding myself physically and then grounding myself spiritually. And then the one practical thing that I'm going to say as a take it or leave it is have a wins file.
It's good.
I've had it for years. And let me tell you, first of all, it's good when you work in corporate America or you work, period. Because then when you have your year-end reviews, you can be like, I did this and this and this and this and this, and it impacted this many people. But a wins file is basically just like a spreadsheet where you say what you have accomplished. Yeah. And that it's another way to ground you, really. Yeah. It grounds you mentally because it reminds you of what you've accomplished. You'll think back to, oh my God, that took me 6 months, but this is the outcome of it, and that you have as a check the box. Yeah. So those are two good things that I found have helped me.
Very helpful. Love it. Thank you. I love some practical strategies.
Hardcore, right?
Yes, right. Give people something to walk away with.
That's my takeaway. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, don't be that light, but yeah. That's what I'll say.
CT, what about you?
Michonne, love you.
Love you.
Honored that you're in the room with us and have always been, since the time we met, impressed with how your brain works, how you bring your thoughts from your head to your mouth in an articulated way that allows people to feel like they can connect to you. And that's deeply important, which is oftentimes then when you think about this concept of imposter syndrome, at its core, at its root, it doesn't mean that you're not ready. It actually means that you care. Mm-hmm. You care about what's getting ready to happen next. You care about how you are presenting yourself. And don't let the fear of being found out drown out that there's something really good in there. And it just may need to be cultivated. And so I encourage our friends and neighbors to be faithful to you. Be consistent with you. And don't be afraid to grow you, because you are that person. You are him, you are she, you are her, you are it.
Yeah.
And the moment that you believe it is the moment that somebody else is going to show up, as Mel said, and the real imposter will be them, not you.
Not you. Come on. Okay, I'll give my final thoughts, and then E, I'll let you close us out.
All right.
Okay. Because I love when E closes out. But it goes back to, I'll share again the quote from Jay Shetty. And he says, if you're growing and learning, you will always feel imposter syndrome. So he looks at it from this perspective of, instead of something that you have to overcome and get over, and strategies to like mitigate imposter syndrome, instead kind of lean into this idea like, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable because I'm growing.
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'm stretching a little bit more. And so, of course, when you try, it's so human of us, when you are trying something new or stretching and growing and learning something different, to feel like, oh, I don't have no idea what's happening. I feel uncomfortable. There's so many people in the room that's smarter than me. Kind of lean into that a little bit, because then you won't feel so much like it's something to overcome, but instead, okay, well, if I'm nervous, let me go ahead and do those grounding exercises. Let me be curious, like CT said, and start asking questions. Let me listen and take notes. Let me do my own research, because it forces you to sort of level up. So instead of thinking like, oh, I got to get over this and I don't belong, lean into it. Right? Embrace it. Embrace that the unknown, and be curious and continue to grow and work on yourself.
Love it.
That's good, Johnny. It's
That's
good,
nice.
Johnny. Some gems.
Okay, Johnny got gems. Always got them gems. All right. Watching out for them Jimmy gems. All right. So this has been a wonderful episode. Thank you guys for all of the wonderful conversation. I don't really have any final thoughts outside of just it's a quote from an artist that we listened to a little bit earlier before we got on there, and the song's called "Love Yours," and it's by J. Cole. There is something beautiful in loving yourself and identifying where you feel comfortable. And it's okay that there's going to be spaces that you're not comfortable in, because as much as you may not realize it. And I got the right group of people on here to agree with me. We make people uncomfortable in those spaces that we ain't meant to be, because they instantly see that this space is too small for the people that done walked in here. So just know that if you're feeling like you are struggling with the spaces that you in, just realize that you might need to be breaking down walls. You might need to be kicking holes and stuff, and realizing that you're a little too big for the areas that you're trying to fit in. So
it's goody.
It's okay.
It's goody. It's goody.
All right, guys. Now you guys know the drill. You can like, subscribe, comment, follow, do all of the things. Make sure to give us the stars on the platforms that you are choosing to tune in on. I know we are here live with you on YouTube. We also promote our stuff on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere that we rock. You should be there getting your motivation on Mondays, because that's what we're here to do. We're trying to make it easy for you to get motivated on Monday. And if you start your week on a Monday and you need a little pick me up, come on over here. Come see us. Thank you so much, Michonne, for being in here. Born to Win Coaching. Please look out for that. We'll put some more info into the description and stuff so you can find her. Now, again, like, subscribe, comment, do all the things, turn on the notifications, and you can also just chill until the next episode. Peace, everybody. Have a good night.
Peace.
Peace.